The Galactic Concordance Conference was the crowning achievement of interstellar diplomacy. Held every 10 Terran years, it brought together civilizations from across the galaxy to exchange ideas, debate policies, and flaunt their cultural quirks. This year, the honor of hosting fell to Earth, a junior member of the Concordance and a species still viewed by many as charmingly chaotic but profoundly inexperienced. Ambassador Derek Langston felt the weight of the occasion as he adjusted his tie in the reflection of the Unity Dome's polished glass walls. Geneva, transformed into a bustling intergalactic hub for the event, seemed almost too quaint compared to the gleaming spires of other member worlds. But Derek was determined to show that Earth belonged here. The Unity Dome was alive with activity. Towering insectoids with segmented limbs navigated the corridors alongside gaseous entities swirling in containment fields. Delegates from the crystalline Techeran Unity glowed faintly, their shifting colors signaling subtle emotions. Derek had to suppress a grin when a Purin diplomat, a sleek feline humanoid, hissed in frustration at the dome's human-sized seating arrangements. "It's just 3 days," Derek muttered to himself. How hard could it be? So far, the answer was manageable. A minor territorial dispute over mineral-rich asteroids had been resolved with Derek's suggestion to establish neutral mining zones. Even the meal presentations had gone off without a hitch. The plant-like Galtorans had proclaimed chocolate a miracle of terrestrial bioflavor, and the Kalnari swarm, a serpentine species, had developed a fixation on iced tea. But then came intermission. Derek hovered by a refreshment table set up in the Unity Dome's central atrium. Arrayed neatly were Earth's finest beverages, juices, herbal teas, sparkling water, and at the center a large urn of coffee. Steam curled lazily from the spout, carrying the familiar aroma that Derek found both comforting and invigorating. He poured himself a cup and took a long sip, savoring the bittersweet kick of the dark roast. As he did, a gelatinous figure slithered up beside him, casting a faintly translucent shadow over the table. "What is that?" asked Sveltor, a diplomat from the Yildnos collective. His shimmering form pulsed gently, his voice resonating like water echoing through a cavern. "Coffee," Derek replied with a smile. "A staple of human culture. Would you like to try some?" Sveltor undulated skeptically. "It smells burnt. Is this beverage safe for consumption?" "Perfectly safe," Derek assured him. "It's a mild stimulant, great for focus and long discussions. Helps us humans stay sharp." Nearby, Trigzon, an insectoid diplomat from the Zarnikor hive, clicked his mandibles in amusement. "Humans require external stimulants for clarity of thought? Typical." "It's not about needing it," Derek countered. "It's about optimizing. Coffee sharpens the mind and boosts productivity. You might find it pleasant." Sveltor extended a pseudopod, dipping it into Derek's cup. The liquid was absorbed into his gelatinous form, spreading in faint ripples. "It is bitter," Sveltor said, his voice wobbling, "and yet intriguing. It carries a depth I cannot describe." Derek grinned. "An acquired taste. Let me pour you a fresh cup." As Sveltor slithered toward the urn, Trigzon's antennae twitched with interest. "If this beverage is as potent as you claim, I will try it, but I suspect it will be laughably weak." Within minutes, the refreshment table became a hotspot. Delegates from across the galaxy gathered, curious about the mysterious human stimulant. A crystalline Techeran envoy poured a precise half cup and sipped delicately, while Zalira, a serpentine Kalnari, coiled around the table, examining the urn with predatory fascination. "You're all welcome to try it," Derek said, pride swelling in his chest. "But remember, go easy. 1 cup is enough." An hour later, Derek was seated in the main chamber, listening to a debate on interstellar resource distribution, when he noticed something strange. Sveltor, typically measured and deliberate, was shifting erratically in his seat, his gelatinous body pulsing in vivid, fluorescent waves. Trigzon's antennae twitched non-stop, and his wings buzzed faintly, even though he wasn't flying. Zalira, usually coiled in relaxed stillness, kept repositioning herself, her metallic scales catching the light with each movement. "Are you feeling all right?" Derek whispered to Sveltor during a brief recess. "I feel extraordinary," Sveltor replied, his voice higher pitched than usual. "My thoughts are clear. I am brimming with ideas. Trigzon leaned forward, his multifaceted eyes glinting. Your coffee, it has activated something within me. I have devised a stratagem to optimize hive expansion. It is flawless. Derek frowned. Wait, how much coffee did you drink? Trigzon tilted his head. 3 cups. Is that unusual? 3 cups, Derek hissed. That's way too much. Trigzon's wings began to buzz more audibly. That explains why I feel agitated. And yet, I am filled with possibility. Before Derek could respond, Sveltor surged to his feet, his gelatinous mass quivering with enthusiasm. We must accelerate the agenda, he boomed, his voice reverberating across the chamber. There is so much to accomplish, so many inefficiencies to correct. Heads turned as murmurs spread through the room. Derek buried his face in his hands. By the time the second hour rolled around, the effects were undeniable. Sveltor was oscillating wildly around the chamber, bombarding delegates with unsolicited proposals for interstellar trade reforms. Trigzon had climbed onto the ceiling, scrawling complex diagrams of hive expansion strategies using an inky secretion from his mandibles. Zalira was slithering in frenzied laps around the room, muttering to herself about triangular efficiency models. Even the Tekran envoy, who had consumed only half a cup, was glowing so brightly he resembled a small star. I have recalculated the Concordance's data relay protocols, he declared, his crystalline body vibrating. Quantum efficiency is within reach. Derek groaned as Keleth, a feline diplomat from the Piran Consortium, approached him, her tail lashing with irritation. Your coffee experiment is spiraling out of control, Keleth hissed. Fix this, Langston, or the Concordance will hold Earth accountable. It's just caffeine, Derek protested. It shouldn't even work this fast on species without circulatory systems. Well, it's working too well, Keleth snapped. You humans always find a way to create chaos. Congratulations, you've weaponized hospitality. Derek sighed, glancing at the now empty coffee urn. This was not how Earth's big debut was supposed to go. And the night was far from over. Derek Langston stood frozen in the Unity Dome's central chamber, watching his galactic peers unravel in a caffeine-fueled frenzy. What had started as an innocent cultural exchange had mutated into an interstellar disaster. Diplomats were buzzing figuratively and literally with hyperactive energy, and the previously calm discussions had dissolved into chaotic outbursts of unsolicited proposals, erratic behavior, and a bizarre fixation on efficiency. Trigzon was scuttling across the ceiling, shrieking orders at an imaginary hive workforce. More tunnels, deeper tunnels. We need drone efficiency rates increased by 37%. I demanded his diagram of resin and ink now spanned 3 walls, a chaotic map of hypothetical hive expansions. On the floor, Sveltor bounced from delegate to delegate, his gelatinous body shimmering with an almost blinding luminescence. I have drafted 17 proposals for interstellar trade harmonization, he boomed. Who will join my subcommittee? It is crucial. Crucial, I say. Derek turned to Keleth, the feline Piran diplomat, who sat nearby, her tail swishing in exasperation. You have 1 hour to fix this before the Concordance officially files a grievance against Earth, she hissed. If you don't, humanity might as well resign from galactic politics altogether. Fix it, Derek groaned. You want me to fix a room full of over-caffeinated aliens? How exactly do you propose I do that? Keleth arched an eyebrow. You humans are creative, aren't you? Figure it out. Derek stormed out of the chamber and tapped his comm unit. Dr. Torres, I need your help. Now. Torres, here came the voice of Earth's lead xenobiologist. She sounded exhausted. Don't tell me this is about the coffee incident. Of course it's about the coffee incident, Derek snapped. I need an anti-caffeine solution. Something safe for a dozen species with wildly different biologies, and I need it fast. Good luck with that, Torres replied dryly. Caffeine metabolization varies wildly even among humans. Multiply that by the number of alien species in that chamber, and we're looking at a logistical nightmare. Nightmare or not, Derek said, if we don't figure this out, Earth's going to be kicked out of the Concordance, or worse. Torres sighed. All right, let me think. Pause. Then okay, we can try flushing the caffeine from their systems with a rehydrating solution. High electrolyte content fortified with compounds to counteract stimulants. But it's not going to be perfect. It might work for some species and not for others. It's better than nothing, Derek said. How soon can you have it ready? Give me 30 minutes, Torres replied. While Torres prepared her solution, Derek faced the unenviable task of corralling the affected diplomats. With the help of the Unity Dome's security drones, he began rounding up the most chaotic offenders and gently directing them toward a quarantine room on the dome's lower level. Sveltor was the first to be contained, though not without protest. You're stifling progress, the gelatinous diplomat declared, his pseudopods flailing. We must act on these ideas immediately. Do you understand the magnitude of the inefficiencies I've identified? Sure, Sveltor, Derek said through gritted teeth. We'll get right on that just as soon as you sit down and drink some water. Trigzon, perched on the ceiling, was more difficult. The hive requires no rest, the insectoid screeched. We shall construct, expand, evolve. Derek gestured to a security drone, which extended a mechanical arm to nudge Trigzon toward the ground. Trigzon, buddy, let's take a break. You'll thank me later. I will do no such thing, Trigzon declared, flapping his wings in defiance. The Tekkaran envoy, still glowing brightly, wandered into the quarantine room voluntarily. I have recalculated the energy efficiency of this facility, he announced serenely. You may thank me later for my optimization suggestions. Derek sighed. At least you're cooperative. By the time Dr. Torres arrived with her solution, a tray of brightly colored, electrolyte-rich drinks, the quarantine room was a cacophony of restless energy. Zalira, the culinary diplomat, had coiled herself around a table leg, muttering feverishly about shipping lanes. Sveltor was attempting to give an impromptu lecture on trade harmonization to an audience of security drones, and Trigzon was clicking his mandibles in frustration as his wings buzzed sporadically. Attention, everyone, Derek said, raising his voice to be heard over the din. This drink has been specially formulated to help stabilize your systems. Please, for the sake of galactic diplomacy, give it a try. Sveltor absorbed a glass through his gelatinous body, his pulsating colors dimming slightly. Interesting, he said, his voice less frantic. The intensity is diminishing. Trigzon reluctantly grabbed a cup and took a sip. His wings slowed to a manageable buzz. This is tolerable, he admitted. But the clarity fades. I dislike that. Zalira drank with visible suspicion but soon settled into a calmer posture, her coils loosening. Perhaps I was overzealous, she admitted grudgingly. Even the Tekkaran envoy dimmed to a soft glow, his crystalline body no longer radiating enough heat to fry nearby electronics. Within an hour, the quarantine room was finally quiet. The diplomats, though subdued, were visibly embarrassed. I must apologize, Sveltor said, his voice low. It seems I was overwhelmed by your beverage. I too was affected, Trigzon added, his mandibles clicking softly. Though I cannot deny the insight it provided. The hive has taken note of this stimulant's potential. Derek raised a hand. Look, it wasn't your fault. Humans are used to this stuff. We should have known it might hit you differently. Keleth, watching from the doorway, crossed her arms. A diplomatic disaster narrowly avoided. You're lucky this didn't spiral further, Langston. Derek sighed. If nothing else, we've learned a valuable lesson about cultural exchange. Always test the coffee. The room burst into hesitant laughter, a rare moment of levity in an otherwise exhausting day. The following day, the Unity Dome was buzzing not from the over-caffeinated antics of diplomats, but from the fallout of the incident. Rumors spread like wildfire among the unaffected delegates, and speculation abounded. Had Earth deliberately sabotaged the conference? Was coffee a weapon, or merely a testament to humanity's lack of foresight? Derek Langston, running on his fifth cup of the very substance that had caused the crisis, stood before the full concordance assembly. He adjusted his tie and took a deep breath, glancing nervously at the infamous coffee urn now displayed on a pedestal behind him, as if it were an artifact of catastrophic misjudgment. Distinguished delegates, he began, his voice steady. Despite his exhaustion, I owe you all an explanation. The room murmured with anticipation. Kelleth, sitting near the front, shot him a warning glance, her tail flicking with impatience. Derek continued. What happened yesterday was not sabotage, nor was it an attempt to undermine this conference. It was an honest mistake, born of a cultural misunderstanding. Coffee for humans is a tool. It sharpens our minds, fuels our creativity, and helps us navigate challenges. For us, it's as mundane as water. A crystalline Tekran voice stood, his voice resonating like chimes. Yet this mundane tool nearly dismantled a gathering of the galaxy's finest minds. Why should we trust a species that fails to consider such consequences? The room hummed with agreement. Derek held up his hands. You're right. Humanity is new to the concordance, and we still have a lot to learn about how our cultures intersect. But consider this: the very traits that made coffee a problem yesterday, the energy, the drive, the ambition, are the same traits that make humanity a valuable member of this alliance. Derek stepped away from the podium, pacing as he spoke. Humanity thrives on finding solutions in chaos. We're not perfect, but we adapt, we innovate, and we make mistakes, plenty of them. What happened yesterday wasn't our finest hour, but it was also a moment of revelation. It showed us how much we still have to learn from each other. Trigzon, the insectoid diplomat, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. It is true that the hive experienced unusual clarity during the incident. Your stimulant is potent, albeit overwhelming. It provided perspectives we had not previously considered. Zalira, the serpentine Kalnari, flicked her tail lazily. Indeed. While I do not relish the sensation, I must admit it inspired bold ideas for trade logistics. Perhaps there is merit in your methods, even if they must be approached with caution. Sveltor rose, his gelatinous form shifting hues. The Lilgnos Collective agrees. This incident, while disruptive, illuminated new possibilities. I propose that we establish a subcommittee to explore human stimulants and their potential applications. Derek stifled a groan. Let's focus on recovering from this first, shall we? The room chuckled softly, the tension easing. After much deliberation, the concordance issued a formal resolution: no human stimulants were to be distributed at interstellar events without rigorous testing. While it wasn't the glowing endorsement Derek had hoped for, it was far better than expulsion or sanctions. In the days that followed, Earth became the subject of galactic intrigue. Memes of the coffee urn spread across communication networks, with captions like "the brew that shook the stars" and weaponized hospitality at its finest. Delegates from various civilizations reached out to request samples strictly for research, they claimed. Sveltor sent Derek a meticulously organized packet of trade reform ideas, this time written with a more subdued tone. Trigzon dispatched a formal note of thanks, accompanied by a request for coffee beans to conduct controlled hive experiments. Zalira, ever the pragmatist, sent an updated shipping lane proposal inspired by her caffeine-fueled brainstorming session. Even Kelleth, skeptical as ever, offered a rare compliment. You humans are reckless, Langston, but you're nothing if not resourceful. Try to cause less chaos next time. I'll do my best, Derek replied with a grin. Back on Earth, Derek watched the sun set over Geneva, the Unity Dome quiet now that the conference had concluded. Humanity's place in the concordance was still secure, though their reputation had taken on an unexpected twist. We might be the galaxy's caffeinated chaos makers, Derek muttered to himself, but at least they'll remember us. As he poured himself another cup of coffee, Derek couldn't help but smile. And somewhere in the galaxy, Trigzon was sketching another tunnel expansion plan, fueled by a single, carefully measured sip of the brew that changed everything. In the weeks that followed, Earth's coffee fiasco became the stuff of galactic legend. Stories spread from star system to star system, each more exaggerated than the last. On one planet, coffee was rumored to grant telepathy. On another, it was said to induce visions of alternate timelines. Humanity's coffee was now infamous, and requests for samples flooded Earth's diplomatic channels. Some were legitimate scientific teams seeking to study the chemical composition, but others were more eccentric. The Zarnikar hive sent a request for enough beans to sustain the hive for a lunar cycle, a quantity that Derek politely declined. The Unity Dome had returned to a semblance of normalcy. The diplomats had gone home. The coffee urn was back in Earth's custody, now labeled with a large warning in several languages, and Derek Langston was finally getting a chance to breathe. Derek sat in his office overlooking the Geneva skyline, sipping a well-deserved cup of coffee. It tasted sweeter now, knowing that the crisis had ended with humanity's reputation largely intact. His desk was cluttered with reports and follow-ups from the conference, but one file stood out: a request from the Concordance. The document outlined plans for a new initiative: interstellar cultural exchange programs. Humanity's ability to spark curiosity, even through chaos, had inspired the idea. Each member world would nominate a cultural artifact or tradition to share with others, fostering understanding and collaboration. Attached to the document was a note from Kenneth Langston. Consider this your redemption arc. The Peering Consortium has already volunteered to introduce their nectar rituals. I trust Earth will submit something less disruptive this time. Derek chuckled, setting the note aside. As the months passed, Earth's role in the Concordance continued to grow. The cultural exchange program proved wildly successful, with delegations traveling across the galaxy to share everything from Pyrrhon nectar ceremonies to Tekaran light sculptures. Humanity contributed cautiously, at first offering chocolate, art, and music instead of anything caffeinated, but the interest in coffee never waned. By popular demand and after much testing, Earth introduced controlled coffee ceremonies to the program. These sessions were strictly monitored, with servings carefully measured and consumed under supervision. The results were surprisingly positive. Delegates reported bursts of inspiration, newfound appreciation for Earth's ingenuity, and occasional bouts of caffeine-induced bonding. Trigzon even wrote a formal report titled "The Productivity Potential of Human Coffee, a Zarnikar Hive Perspective." In it, he proposed using coffee in limited doses to enhance drone coordination during critical hive building phases. Derek wasn't sure if this was a compliment or a warning. Years later, as Derek prepared to retire from his post, he received a package from the Yulgnos Collective. Inside was a small plaque inscribed with shimmering text, in recognition of humanity's gift to the galaxy: coffee, the stimulant that inspired stars. Derek laughed out loud, setting the plaque on his desk. His legacy, it seemed, would be forever entwined with the beverage that had turned a simple intermission into an interstellar phenomenon. As he poured himself one last cup, Derek raised it in a silent toast to the galaxy. "Here's to progress," he said. "One cup at a time."